Data security seems pretty straightforward until you realize that 95% of cloud storage providers can read every single file you upload. Today on Technically You, we're exploring how that shocking reality is about to change.
That's quite a disturbing statistic when you think about all the personal information we store in the cloud. How did we get so comfortable with this setup?
Well, it's fascinating, really. We've been trained to trust these big tech companies with our data, but client-side encryption is completely flipping that trust model on its head.
Let me break this down for everyone. We're talking about encrypting your data before it ever leaves your device, right?
Exactly. Think of it like having an invisible force field that scrambles your information into complete gibberish using military-grade encryption. Only you hold the special key that can decode it.
You know what's really interesting? The mathematics behind this encryption is so complex that even with today's most powerful supercomputers, it would take billions of years to crack.
Hmm, that reminds me of something fascinating. The encryption standard most commonly used, AES-256, uses a key that has more possible combinations than there are atoms in the observable universe.
Well, that's exactly why it's becoming the gold standard for security. But here's what surprises most people. This incredible protection happens in milliseconds on our phones.
Speaking of phones, let's talk about real-world applications. When you send a message through Signal, yeah, that signal that made the news when a message was sent to the wrong recipient before a planned military action, or WhatsApp, your device instantly encrypts it using similar principles. The message stays scrambled until it reaches the recipient's device.
Oh, and don't forget about Proton Mail. They've built their entire business model around this technology, encrypting every email before it touches their servers.
You know what's really mind-blowing? According to recent studies, about 60% of companies that experience data breaches could have prevented the exposure if they'd been using client-side encryption.
Let me add something important about that. Even when hackers do break in, all they find is mathematical gibberish. Without the encryption key, it's completely useless.
Though, this does bring up an interesting challenge. The responsibility for protecting these encryption keys falls entirely on the user. It's like having the world's strongest safe, but keeping the combination written on a post-it note.
So what's the best way for people to manage these keys? Because this is where I see a lot of users struggling.
Well, the most secure approach is using a dedicated password manager that itself uses strong encryption. Some organizations are even using specialized hardware security modules. Think of them like ultra-secure USB drives specifically designed for storing encryption keys.
Let me share something fascinating about the future of this technology. With quantum computers on the horizon, researchers are already developing new encryption methods that even these super powerful machines won't be able to crack.
And that's not the only development we're seeing. Major cloud providers are starting to offer split key encryption, where they hold part of the key and users hold the other part. Though personally, I think any compromise in security eventually becomes a vulnerability.
That's making me think about the broader implications for privacy and security in our digital world.
You know what's really telling? A recent survey showed that 78% of consumers would switch to services that offer client-side encryption if given the option. People are starting to understand the value of true privacy.
Well, that's certainly reflected in the market. Companies are now advertising their use of client-side encryption as a major selling point.
Like you mentioned earlier about quantum computing, we're essentially in an arms race between security technology and the tools that could break it. It's fascinating how we're building better locks before anyone invents better lockpicks.
Let me tell you about something I find particularly interesting: the way this technology is reshaping compliance requirements. Regulations like GDR and HIPAA are practically forcing organizations to adopt stronger encryption measures.
And that's actually a good thing for consumers. These regulations are pushing companies to implement better security practices, even if they might not have done so voluntarily. Though it's worth noting that only about 30% of companies currently offer client-side encryption options.
That number seems surprisingly low given the stakes involved.
Well, here's the thing. Many companies resist implementing it because it limits their ability to scan files for malware or index them for search functionality. But innovative solutions are emerging to address these challenges while maintaining security.
Let me wrap this up with one key thought. In today's digital world, taking control of your own data security isn't just smart, it's essential.
You're absolutely right. And remember, everyone, the best protection is the one you control yourself. The future of privacy is in our hands, quite literally in the form of encryption keys. And as always, stay curious.